From the cookbook, Cooking on a Ration, Food is Still Fun, written by Marjorie Mills in 1943, comes to us a recipe called Wartime Chop Suey. We're doing this here today on Recipe Redemption. I'm your host, Mike Uyak. Thanks for joining me. Now, this is very definitely the product of rationing, wartime rationing. And, wheat, pasta of all kinds, wheat, was rationed fairly severely, but rice less so. And matter of fact, there was a big push to sort of promote more rice consumption in the United States. And at around the same time, Chinese food, Americanized Chinese food, was becoming particularly popular across the U.S. It was one of the things that immigrant Chinese could do, was open up these restaurants that were becoming increasingly popular once they figured out how to adapt some fairly simple classic home style recipes to a more American palate and the ingredients that were available to them at the time. So a lot of, fairly standard onion, celery, carrot type of ingredients. Bell pepper appeared in a lot of stuff. And that kind of became traditional for Chinese food in the United States, even though a lot of these immigrants would remember using, all the different types of bok choy and choy sum, all the greens, lotus root, bitter melon, bamboo shoots, all that stuff. They didn't have that here for a very long time. So they made do with what they had. And so they made some of these classic dishes, and chop suey was one of them. And now, the history of chop suey is a little murky. No one really knows exactly um, when the American style of chop suey was invented, but they're pretty sure that it is sort of an Americanization of, I believe it's a Cantonese dish called chop suey, which oddly enough, if you translate it, basically means miscellaneous leftovers. So it's whatever you got, sort of stir fried, served in sort of a gravy, a cornstarch thickened sauce. That's kind of what it became in the United States. Is it's what they had, and in sort of a savory gravy, but it was usually just a cornstarch thickened sauce, so it tended to be a little bit pasty, gluey. And it's kind of why I don't really like chop suey in the United States version. Um, Americanized chop suey, usually overcooked vegetables. Um, Oftentimes there'll be bean sprouts in there, and overcooked bean sprouts just have this texture that it's at one point it's sort of mushy, soggy, and on the other hand it's still stringy. So it's like you've got a soup bowl with dental floss in it, and it's just not for me. So this does not have the bean sprouts in it. It still has you overcook the vegetables a little bit, but by a little bit. Some of the vegetables get overcooked. Let's take a look at the recipe. You're starting off with pork, which is always a good start. It's fresh pork loin is what the recommended um, meat is. Onion, rice, bouillon. So you're adding sort of beef flavor. Green pepper, celery strips, and then either soy sauce or ketchup, your choice. And the funny thing is, you add just a quarter cup of rice into this, and then you top it with ready-to-eat rice cereal. Now, obviously, in our day and age, that kind of means Rice Krispies because there's not a whole lot of others. So that's what we're going to do, and that's what we have right here. But this is how we made it. Wartime Chop Suey starts off with half a cup of sliced onion. I'm doing a half recipe here. Half a cup sliced onion and about a quarter pound of fresh pork loin that I've cut into strips. And once that sautés for a few minutes and the onions get soft, I'm going to throw in 1/8 of a cup of uncooked rice, tossed around just to make sure that they get coated in that oil, and then 2 cups of beef stock made from bouillon. Once that comes back up to a simmer, a couple of minutes, throw in half a cup of sliced green pepper, and didn't actually catch it on camera, but there is about a half a teaspoon of salt. And the recipe says I can use, in this case, 3/4 of a teaspoon of either soy sauce or a tablespoon of ketchup. I'm using both. Brought up to a simmer, and simmered for another 20 minutes, and then served at once with rice cereal, this is Rice Krispies, tossed in melted butter. And I'm having more because this is my dinner tonight. So we are going to try Wartime Chop Suey. Honestly, it's not too bad since we didn't actually do the cornstarch thickened gravy. The addition of the rice, of the uncooked white rice, into the simmering liquid, it absorbed a lot of liquid, which is why the recipe actually calls for 4 cups of water to 2 bouillon cubes, I think. No, 4 bouillon cubes. Sorry. So it's quite a lot of salt in addition to additional salt. But that rice soaks up a lot of liquid and it releases starch into the liquid that's remaining. So it also thickens in that way. Get a little pork here. Make sure I get a little of my rice cereal. It's not bad, actually. It's fairly plain. There's not a whole lot of exciting flavors in this, but it's wartime. You're under rationing, so you kind of can't expect exciting flavors when you're in the middle of a war. I have to say that the rice cereal, it was heated in butter, and what that tended to do is actually make some of these Rice Krispie kernels a little chewy, actually. Yeah, it's like they're no longer crispy anymore, but they're not soggy either. So they kind of went in between and became a little bit chewy. It does add a little bit of texture. I just don't know if it's the right texture. I'm honestly surprised that it's not too salty, because it had me add bouillon cubes and salt to this. But it's actually kind of nice. It's not too bad. And even by chop suey standards, that's actually an acceptable plate of food. Well, I can't really leave it there. It's good enough. It's okay. And I could show you how to make real chop suey, but ultimately it is stir-fried meat and vegetables. Add a bit of broth, and then thicken that into a gravy with cornstarch slurry. You can do that. And unfortunately, the traditional American Chinese restaurant chop suey, uh, at least in my mind, is worse than this. So it's not really a redemption. And I don't really think this needs a redemption, but if you want to take it in a different direction, pork and rice together, um, made in a flavorful way with some vegetables. There's a dish that I like a lot. I'm going to start off my pearl balls recipe with a vegetable medley. Carrot, celery, and green pepper. Thrown into my food processor and blitzed to a smooth paste. I don't show it here, but I went back in and added some soy sauce, rice wine vinegar, and an egg. The extra liquid will allow this to actually spin around and blend a little better. Put it into a bowl with some ground pork along with my seasonings, onion powder, garlic powder, white pepper, salt, and Chinese 5-spice. And just toss around, fold that in until well incorporated. And then, as a nod to the original Wartime Chop Suey, I'm adding a cup and a half of Rice Krispies. And I don't want to break those up too much, so I'm just going to kind of fold those in. Now for the pearl balls recipe, they're going to be steamed. So I have my bamboo steamer here, and it means it's time for little arts and crafts. I have a rough square of parchment paper. I'm just going to fold it in half one way, then fold it in half the other way. So you end up with another square, kind of napkin folded. Then I'm going to fold it. I'm going to grasp this corner where all of the folded edges meet. So, or the corner that all the folded edges have in common. And I'm just going to fold in thirds diagonally around the axis of that point to make kind of a little cone. If you want, you can even fold this again. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not. But basically have this cone. Now, this here. Now, I have my bamboo steamer here, and I measure to about the middle. There it is. And give it a little crease. That tells me basically what the radius of my bamboo steamer is. Now this is actually kind of a big piece, but I can just cut it off right there where I folded it. Now, I remember doing this as a kid, making snowflakes. Just cut a bunch of little triangles out of this cone. Like so. Obviously, you don't want them to touch. If they do, well, then you just cut your piece of parchment in half. You can even cut a little bit off the tip. You're going to end up with a hole in the center. What you're doing, basically creating holes in the circle / snowflake for the steam to get through when you place this in the steamer basket. Okay, that should do. You can even do one. You can even do one on the edge. Why not? There. So, something like that. Unfold it gently. And you end up with something like that. A perfectly, prodigiously perforated piece of parchment paper. Place that in your steamer basket. And repeat with your other basket if you have more than one. Now that the meat mixture has rested a bit, I start making the pearl balls, like a little meatball that I roll around in this sticky rice or glutinous rice that I've allowed to soak in water for a couple of hours beforehand. And then just place those into my steamer basket. And this recipe will make probably about 40 of these. Steam that over a good roiling boil for 20 minutes until they look something like this. Behold, pearl balls. As I mentioned, you really need to soak the rice beforehand. This steamed for 20 minutes, cooked perfectly. Meatballs are cooked through. The rice is fully hydrated and cooked through. If you don't do that, the rice will be raw, even if you cook it for double the time. And you don't want these to be crunchy. Now, I made up a dipping sauce. It's just some Chinese black vinegar and some dark soy. And I'm dipping my balls in it. Don't want to really submerge it, just sort of a little light dunk into the sauce. You know, like a tea bag. Anyway. Now, I put the vegetables in to add a little extra moisture. That's the word I'm looking for. To counteract the Rice Krispies that I add. Sort of a conceit that I'm using to redeem the Wartime Chop Suey recipe by using the Rice Krispies. You don't have to do that. You can leave the chopped vegetables out, leave the Rice Krispies out. You'll end up with the same product, but I kind of had to use the Rice Krispies just because. So, thing with this recipe, you can put just about anything that you want into the meatball to flavor it, I mean. Important thing is, because you're adding all this starch with the rice, you need more seasoning than you think you do. So that's why I had all the different spices in there. And even then, these are actually kind of subtle. Try another one. Give you a little bit of a cross section of this. It's quite tasty. And not surprisingly, pretty filling between the Rice Krispies and the sticky rice on the outside. Good bit of carbs in addition to your lovely meatballs. Don't worry, I'm not going to eat this entire plate by myself. Or am I? So what do you think? Is there any other way that I could have redeemed the Wartime Chop Suey? It wasn't that bad. It just wasn't great. And honestly, I don't know that the Rice Krispies really added anything to it. I don't know what else I could have done other than just make real chop suey. So this is what I chose to do. What would you have done? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time here on Recipe Redemption. Bye now.